Welcome back to another episode of the Barcode Collective podcast. I'm here with Clark Souers, owner of Expert Effect, founder of Expert Effect, long career in the HR industry as well. Does a lot of work with resilience training, stress resilience training. So we're going to hear his story all about his business, how that's set up, how he has curated a team of experts to help not only executives but individuals navigate stress in life, this stressful environment, all the stress we're dealing with now in COVID and trying to keep businesses alive. I can only imagine how busy you are, my friend. So I appreciate you making the time to come in and having a conversation.
You're welcome, Jacob. It's always cool coming to Spacebar because I just can kind of unwind. Like as soon as I walk through the doors, it's like, I can breathe. I can't always breathe outside of here,
right.
So it's kind of nice.
And these masks sure as hell don't make it any easier to breathe, right?
That's for sure.
So yeah, that is awesome, and that's how we first met, is coming through the Spacebar using the infrared sauna. I don't know if we've gotten you in the ice bath yet.
Not yet.
I think you've done the float therapy.
Yes.
So yeah, and it's amazing to hear that, this is a place that you can come and, unplug a little bit and relax and try to find a bit of a sanctuary for whatever might exist out there in that hectic life that we're dealing with. So yeah, man, how did you come across this initially? Was it just good old-fashioned Google?
Yeah, it was good old Google, Yelp, one of the two. I love doing infrareds. I've been doing them for about 2 years. And the place I typically went to, was closed. So I'm like, I got to find another one. I'm addicted to infrared saunas. They're like so good for my body. And so I came across you, and then I'm like, this is where I got to plant for now.
So you've been doing it for about 2 years. Is it something that you really noticed the difference in? Like, I think a lot of people, whether it's infrared saunas, red lights, floats, sometimes they're just like skeptical, right, that it's even going to work. But for you, it seems to actually be paying off.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first couple times, probably the first 6 months I did the infrared, sometimes I felt like a little drained afterwards, but I think it was my body had never had it before, so it was probably releasing some toxins.
Yeah.
But I was like, I know this is good for my body. And then once I got over that hump, then it was amazing. I started feeling like major energy after the sessions.
Yeah, some endorphins, yeah.
Yes, and so I was like, this is worth it. It was kind of just pushing through, kind of like how when you start a workout regimen, everybody's like, I don't know about this. I'm not used to this level of workout. Be curious to get your thoughts on the science on that. Like, is there something about infrared that it does have kind of a threshold for some people? And then once you get over that, then you really feel those positive effects.
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to any of this, whether it's sauna or the ice bath, all of those are somewhat stressful things that you're putting yourself through. So just like a workout, how, again, you're going and you're increasing stress. You're putting your body through some stress. So it does take time for you to adapt to that stress before you find a new normal and you can do it. So like those initial first visits in a sauna, they're stressful. Your body's heating up.
Right.
And anytime you have elevated temperature or very decreased temperature, like that's a stressful environment on your body. Your body doesn't really know. So with a boost of cortisol in that particular moment, eventually you'll kind of adapt to that, and then you'll be able to experience some of the benefits of like lowered blood pressure or cardiovascular health. But yeah, that initial few visits, it's just discomfort, which again is stress, and I think that's why we do a lot of what we do, is to try to increase our threshold, because a lot of these things don't necessarily get easier. We just adapt to them,
right.
So yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think and a lot of the things that we have here, that's what we talk about, because it's so relevant to life, for people that are trying to grab life by the horns and push their limits a bit. You're always teetering on this uncomfortable level of stress, and the more frequently you're towing that line, you can nudge it a little further and a little further, and adapt to it. So
nice.
So tell me a little bit about.
Well, before we do there, ice baths.
Ice bath. Oh, yeah.
So now I got to get the courage for this, because I grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
And I vividly remember my dad's like, we got to go check out this thing. And it was the reservoir in Boulder on New Year's Day. And I forget what they called it, but it was these guys that would go out, and on New Year's Day, they would cut a hole in the ice, and they'd jump in the lake, in the frozen water.
They call it a polar plunge.
Yeah, it was like the polar bears or something like that. And so I saw that as a young kid, and I just saw these guys get out, and they look, like just toasted after doing that in a cold way. So I was like, never will I do anything like that. So the closest I've gotten is like, jumping out of a hot tub and rolling in the snow a little bit, and then jumping right back in the hot tub. So how could I get the courage, and what's gonna be the upside for doing ice baths now that I've conquered the infrared sauna?
Well, so infrared saunas open up your blood vessels, right? So they increase some blood flow. So the ice bath is going to be kind of similar in that, and where it's opposite in the effect that it closes your blood vessels.
Right.
So it restricts all that. All the blood starts flowing to your vital organs. And then as you warm back up, all that blood starts flushing throughout the system to kind of help with some of these inflamed areas. But it also increases brown fat. So it's a great way for people to stay lean. Brown fat's a very metabolically active tissue. So similar to like how muscle, is kind of what drives our metabolism. Brown fat will also help with that.
Right.
But afterwards, you got this huge rush of endorphins as well. And like the feeling of that is like this crazy runner's high, that's just a ton of endorphins. But more so for the mental fortitude. It's all about just flipping the switch and knowing that this is going to suck for however long you're in there, be it 15 seconds or 3 minutes. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It's not going to suck, but you are going to reap a ton of benefits afterwards.
Nice.
And that is, again, through and through with what we deal with on a daily basis. Like if we are living in a place that's always comfortable, we're never going to be the leader that we want to be. We're never going to have the business that we want. We're never going to be the father that we want to be because we're sitting in our comfort zone.
Right.
So throughout your life, I know for a fact you've lived in that uncomfortable space. You've done shit that you just did not want to do because you knew what was on the other side of that.
Yes.
Very similar with the ice bath. It's going to suck. Guarantee it. Never gets easier. But you have that little win every single time you do it. And it just reiterates, that you are capable of so much more and capable of doing the things that you don't want to do in order to reap the benefits of it. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to say it right now because I need someone to hold me accountable. So everyone online can hold me accountable. Today's the day. I'm going to do infrared later today. I've got it scheduled.
All right.
So today I'm going to do the ice plunge.
All right, cool. What time? Would you know what time?
I think like 12:30.
Okay. I should be here. So if I am, I will walk you through it.
Nice.
And that is the thing. Like, again, like life, if you have the tools to deal with it, then it makes it easier. So the tools in regards to the ice bath, a lot of times is the breath that we're talking about. So there are things that, maybe you've seen like the Wim Hof method where he's doing breathing to actually warm himself up to almost mask the coldness.
Wow.
So there's techniques like that. What I really like to do is kind of embrace the cold and get people to breathe slower so that they're not necessarily masking the coldness. They're just taking their focus elsewhere, and they're focusing on the breath and really trying to counteract this stressful environment of the ice and flip the switch into the parasympathetic state. So once you get a little more relaxed, your perception the ice isn't, the water is still 33 degrees. That doesn't change, but your perception of it is changed because you're taking your focus off of that a little bit more and you're on the breath. And when you're doing that, you can, I wouldn't say coast right through it, but you can manage it a lot better. Nice. So that's a tool that you can have with you, whether it's in the ice, or whether it's in traffic, wherever. You can use that type of breathing to just relax and create a little space for yourself to, again, operate out of, just not your emotion, but like actually making a decision at that point based out of a sturdy foundation. So
nice.
Yeah, I hope I can be there for you. I'll walk you through it. It makes a huge difference than if you're there by yourself.
Right. That makes me feel a little better. And the next step, I'm going to be like walking on hot coals, right? Like the Hawaiian culture.
That might be next. Yes, I have yet to do it. My feet are sensitive as hell. Anytime I step on a little pebble, I'm limping for the rest of the day. So you let me know how that goes.
All right.
And then I'll have to follow suit.
Okay. Sounds good. You coach me through the ice bath. I'll coach you through walking on fire.
Deal.
Tapping the parasympathetic.
For sure. Yeah, man. So why did you become interested in a lot of this stuff to begin with?
Yeah. So really started at a young age when I was 19. Just my eyes got open to the topic of stress. So as probably like 14, I just started experiencing a lot of stress with school and life. And, I think I just thought it was normal. was like, okay, I was a kid, but now I'm a teenager, and this life is crazy stressful. And I just thought it was normal for my body and my mind to feel the way it did. I started having insomnia. I loved playing tennis. So I was like, I would kind of start dreading tennis matches because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm probably not going to get much sleep the night before I go play tennis. Or even enjoyable things like a ski trip. It would just be like thinking through like what is it going to be like with my friends the next day, and am I going to hurt myself, and just like it was crazy, just like anxiety would kick in, but it was because I was in such a stressed out state.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, but I just thought it was normal, like, okay, all teenagers are dealing with this. And then when I was 19, I was in college, and I kind of was just accomplishment driven, and I just went into my actually I was 20. I went into my junior year just with too much on my plate.
Yeah.
I was going to be the junior class president. I was going to be a manager in the volunteer center. I wanted to get all A's. It was just like my schedule was intense. And so my first night in the dorm room, that insomnia, I was like, I started feeling it. I'm like, I can't sleep. But it was like so intense, the insomnia. Like my body was so revved up preparing for that semester and all that I had on my plate, and I didn't have good time management skills, so I was trying to figure out or tools. So trying to like just remember everything and try to write it down, but not having a good strategy for it. And so I didn't sleep a wink. First night of my junior year.
Yeah, and did you notice, was it a lot of the stress like external, like putting pressure on you to do it, or was it you kind of putting it on yourself? Where was that stress coming from?
Yeah, I think it was coupled with me being a people pleaser. That's kind of been my personality. So as me, one thing like being in kind of the public spotlight, like I am your junior class president, and I got elected by a slim margin, and I have to prove to the junior class that I'm going to just rock it as your junior class president.
Yeah.
But it was all internal. I didn't have anyone saying, like, you have to do this. And I just felt there was all these expectations, and then my own expectations of getting all A's. It wasn't coming from my parents or anyone else. It was on me. Like, I wanted to do that to be successful in life. So it was totally self-driven. But it was my perception that, people would not think highly of me if I didn't do well in everything I was doing, and if I didn't do it really, really well.
Yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that. And at what point did you kind of come out of that, because for me, like those are, resonate with that 100%. And a lot of it, when I started kind of making progress and moving away from that, it was just kind of me maturing and realizing that not everybody is thinking about me. No one really gives a shit if I didn't do this or that, to a certain extent, right? Because, those are when we're talking to ourselves about, we have to prove ourselves to this, and this. There's the assumption that people are actually, looking at you or caring, right? So it's like for me, once I started realizing, like, hey, like not everybody is staring at me, so I don't have to look the best all the time. I don't have to have the best outfit all the time because no one is even looking at me. So, okay, let's eliminate that pressure, that stress. And it's the same kind of train of thought when you eliminate a lot of stuff,
Yes.
Now it's a slippery slope, from going down that and then not caring at all. That's not the case, but you just need to maybe eliminate some of those things that really doesn't need to be that pressure. But, what was it like, so how did you kind of break free of all that pressure?
Yeah, so fast forward on that story, because that's really where I learned exactly what you're saying. And so I didn't sleep that first night, and I actually had 5 sleepless nights.
Jeez, I can't imagine.
It was crazy. Yeah, so it was like compounded because I was like, I got to this point where like, I don't think I can do this junior year. Like, there's no way, but I'm going to let down all these people. And what is everyone going to think, And so I made a difficult decision. I'm going to take the semester off. And it was kind of like, I'm going to take the semester off from school, but I can probably never go back to Pepperdine was where I was at. I can't go back because what are all these people going to think of me? Like, I'm a failure. I had to bow out of being their junior class president. I had to resign my position at the volunteer center. And just all of a sudden I vanished. It's not like I was just like, I'm taking a semester off. I was there.
Yeah.
And then 5 days later I was gone.
Wow.
So I was like, there's no way I can go back. And so I took that semester off, and that's when I started being like, what is stress? Like, what is this all about? I went to a class at the YMCA that they were doing on stress, and I just started studying it on my own. Like, what is it? How can I deal with it? And then it was so good because I had a few friends that reached out to me and was like, you should come back. Like, people don't care. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that like all 600 people in the junior class were going to like look negatively on me, but they moved on with their semester. They had their own stressors.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't even know I was gone or forgot about it, and someone else stepped in. And then I did come back, and it was okay.
Yeah.
Like, I still had friends. People didn't like give me a hard time. I wasn't a failure.
Yeah.
And so that was a good realization, and I had to keep reminding myself about that, and I still have to remind myself about that when I have failures and things that could really stress me out. But then I realized, like, no, like, they're probably going to forget this soon, or they're not even worried about it, or they have their own stuff that they're dealing with.
Or even beyond that, then you even may become even more approachable, and because there's a little bit more, who knows? People were probably looking at you like, man, look at this guy, he's so driven.
Right.
He has no problems. He handles it like a champ. He's not human, and it's like, and maybe unapproachable at that point. And now it's like, like it just, it allows you to be more authentic and allows you to connect with the that class that you're supposed to be, leading to a certain extent, so it's important, and I think that is a huge thing to remember, that it's like no matter who your mentor might be or who you look up to, everyone is human. Every single person deals with the same shit.
Right.
Everybody sucks at something.
Right.
And it's like, we forget about that, and social media and stuff doesn't necessarily help in a lot of that. I mean, I think there are some people attempting to put out the authentic self, but there's a lot of people who just only post the highlights, only talk about all the money they're making, only share the beautiful images of their family, not the picture of their 2-year-old who just threw a pile of shit on the wall. Like they're only sharing the highlights, and now we have this perception that they don't deal with any struggle.
Right.
And I think that's a huge part that I share a lot, probably sometimes too much, because I'm in it so often, and sometimes it just seems like taking lumps that I have to get these things off my chest. So I share very candidly a lot of the struggles. But yeah, I would imagine, you came out of that probably in a better position than you did before, not only for yourself, knowing that, hey man, it's okay to step back, and you learned some coping skills and some strategies to deal with that stress, and you became probably more approachable to the people. So it sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And sometimes you really do see, like, what are the friends that are real friends. I remember, on day 2 after I had took the semester off, I did get a kind of a brutal voicemail. If there was Facebook back then, it was in 1993, it would have been a brutal Facebook post.
Yeah.
But thankfully, it was just a brutal voicemail. And it was like, dude, what's up? Where did our junior class president go? Everyone's wondering, like, what's up with you? And it was just like, that just hurt me to the core.
Yeah.
So that individual, I wasn't striving to be friends with him when I returned. That was a relationship that was not a healthy relationship. Right. It wasn't helping me. And so, I found out who were my true friends that were really supporting me through that situation.
Definitely. So this kind of sets you off on, researching stress and how to deal with it. What during this process, like, what are some of the things that you discovered about stress and that you are able to apply to your situation and kind of move on?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just realizing that I wasn't a machine. I kind of got in this thing like, I am a machine. I can get anything done. I can take anything on. I don't have to say no because I can get it done. And I could get a lot done. I was really productive and a hard worker, and I would sacrifice to get it done. And just thinking like, I can't take my foot off the gas. Like, when I'm at school, that semester I have to go 100%, even if that means sacrificing sleep or sacrificing, exercise, like, and then I would even, like, I'd get a lot of stress just because I wanted to not miss out on, activities with friends. So, doing every activity. And so it was just learning, like, no, my body's not designed that way. It's not a machine, and my body needs to have times of rest and relaxation and restoration. And then that'll put it in a better position to go hard.
Yeah.
So even just when I went back to Pepperdine that January after I took the semester off, it was just like in the middle of the day, I would just go to their amphitheater and just take 10 minutes and just kind of be and just kind of relax.
Yeah.
And that was just a game changer, just that one little thing. Even though I was still going hard, and it's not like all of a sudden I was a C student instead of an A student, and I still had lots of involvements, but I kind of knew what to say no to because I just knew I couldn't do it all. But then also, how can I just find those spaces where I can restore my body, because my body actually needs that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's such a tough conversation to have with people that are very driven, especially when constantly, like, all our culture, our capitalistic society is always like go, go, go. It's more and more and more, whether it's in the gym, whether it's dieting, whatever it is, it's always more. And there's never really a conversation about, hey, let's slow down, let's take a step back. Even though, like, it's been proven that if you can step back, you can go faster and you can do more. And I don't think until we start seeing more people that are high performers doing this and talking about this and talking about sleep hygiene and getting all these recovery things in place, that it's going to become cool or the sexy thing or the new way. And then it's really not going to stick until you do it on yourself and you discover that you can get massive results by backing off a little bit. And it's not ever easy. Like, it's not easy because, we're kind of, we might just be wired a little bit more driven. Culture's putting these pressures on us. So that's like the default. Go, go, go. And, like, I'm speaking from a place of, like, I'm in that shit. Like, I'm always go, go, go. So luckily I've created this thing where there's not much resistance for me to jump in the sauna or the ice bath. Do I do it every single day? No, because my default is go, go, go. So when shit's hitting the fan, like COVID and, we're short staffed or whatever it is, like, I plug myself in because I can bear that weight, or at least I think I can, right?
Yeah.
Until I can't,
Right.
So it's hard for us to still stick with this, even though we know this, like, it's a challenge. So I appreciate these conversations and you sharing that and as well as, like, kind of all you're doing now to really push that message of recovery. So if you want to jump into kind of what you're doing now and how, you do that not only for corporations but for individuals, maybe discuss a little bit about the stress resilience training that you got going on.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about high performers. I've noticed that ultra wealthy high performers actually don't need us, because they've already figured out that for me to perform at a high level, I do need to invest in making my body more resilient to stress. So, if we're talking about a really famous actor, an athlete of a pro sports team, a CEO of a really, really large company, and they have some time, where they're at a place in life where they actually have some time, where they don't have to hustle to get the next gig. They've made a lot of money from different gigs, so they're pretty well financially set. They figured it out. Like, for me to keep performing at this high level, I have to work on my stress resiliency, and they've already hired different people to help them with that. So kind of our sweet spot is people that are in a high performing role, but they're not ultra wealthy, right? They might be doing really well, but they're still thinking about the college savings account for their kids. They're thinking about what's going to happen with the economy, but they're finding that they can't take time to invest in stress resiliency, but they know they need to, or they can't make those changes. Like you said, it's like they're just wired that way. They've been successful their whole life because they go 100%. And so it's really hard to change that and just change the way they go about life. So what we do is we've assembled this team of stress resiliency experts, and we're actually saving people time, because people in this role where they're like, yeah, I know my performance will be even better if I focus on stress resiliency, they are listening to podcasts. They got these books. When you talk to them, they're like, yeah, I just read this book and I'm trying to implement. But what we do is we save them time. It's like, instead of going and having to study all of that on your own, just go through our stress resiliency process. We got 5 different experts that specialize in different areas of stress resiliency. It might be focused on the body, like applied kinesiology or strength and conditioning or nutrition, or it might be on the mind. So it might be a performance psychologist, someone to focus on time effectiveness, someone to help with relationships, because that can cause a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, instead, just meet with each of our experts for 45 minutes, and all those experts are going to talk. It's not, it's not isolated, and they're kind of your team of experts, and you don't have to go find them. You don't have to spend all that time finding the best experts to help you. And then you go through the process, and they actually help change the way you approach life and work, from a cognitive standpoint and from a behavioral standpoint, a habit standpoint. And these experts have already done all the reading and everything, so they help you implement the best solutions that are customized to you, that'll work for you.
No, I love that. I mean, because we understand that it's not just working out, right? It's like, and if you don't necessarily know any better, that's what you're gonna do, again, because the fitness industry pumps billions of dollars into marketing every single year. So in a world of stress, if you have a very high stress job or a stressful environment at home, it wouldn't be, it's normal to hear, oh, go to the gym, work off that stress. But that might not be what's the best for you, because you're already stressed. So going and doing, these very hot HIIT workouts 5 days a week is a ton of additional stress on you. So when you think you're making the right choice, you're not, because you're not really listening to the expert. And if you're going to a personal trainer who's only a personal trainer and hasn't really invested in further education for themselves to understand this holistic approach, of course they're going to sell you personal training, and they're going to throw it all at you, and try to crush you. When if you had a team that's collaborating on this, they might come with a different approach. It might start with, how are you eating? How are you sleeping? And that's where the conversation should really start. Is there room for some resistance training in there for very high stress people? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But is it 5 days a week? Probably shouldn't be. So I love that, man. I love that you have this collection of experts to kind of send people to. So I guess, like, coming from a little bit more of a fitness background on my side, like, it's more of like, you get a new client in, you have a consultation, it's a little one-on-one. You try to dive a little deeper on where they're being held up on. Is that similar to this flow of it? Is it like the flow the same every single time? Like, you're going to meet with person 1, then 2, like, what does that system look like for, say, someone who's interested? Like, they jump on the website, fill out a little inquiry, and then what's that process look like for them?
Yeah, good question. We gave a lot of thought to this when we were taking the holistic approach. So tapped like some of the best performance psychologists in the country, rather than just kind of using my own understanding. And even though I've studied all this stuff a lot, it's like, I want the best of the best. And we actually came up with a sequence. Like, this is the sequence that makes sense. So we start on the mental side of stress resiliency, and we actually did a lot of research. Who should they meet with first? So the first person is a performance psychologist that really unpacks just kind of an awareness of stress. So a lot of times, a high performer will be like, I'm stressed because, of this, like, we're rolling out this new program, or I'm like, you're saying, like, I'm dealing with staffing employees and having a business open during a pandemic. And we know, like, that's the stress that's there. But the performance psychologist from the very get-go is, let's go deeper on that. So what is the root causes? What's causing that stress? You know what the surface level is, but there is deeper stuff that's triggering that. And so that's where we start. And then next up, it goes into the next expert. And there's some research that's based on now that we've done that, who's the next best expert to meet with. And so there is a complete sequence to it. We started out, we try to make things super simple because these are really busy people. They're going through our stress resiliency process. So we start out with an assessment in the beginning, an online assessment that takes like 20 minutes to complete. And it gives us just some really good intel so that our experts, when they go into the session, they can just jump into it. And then each expert kind of shares with the next expert, like, hey, this is what came out of our session. So the next expert has that intel. And so as they go through, we have all this intel from the assessment and the sessions. And then all the experts can just show up, and it can be like the most strategic session possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, because there's a lot of things that go into this, right?
Yeah.
And if you're already busy and already stressed, like, why wouldn't you want to save time? Like the amount of time I've spent like researching nutrition and breath work and all of this, there's a lot of time that goes into that.
Right.
And if you're the type that really enjoys that process of learning, go for it. Well, there's a chance that you don't. You know what I mean? And at the very least, reach out to people who can at least point you in the right direction as far as getting the proper resources. Because the internet, although it's a lot of benefits, there is a lot of fake information and wrong information out there. And just because somebody's got the best genetics and is shredded and jacked, it doesn't mean that they have any real information besides being blessed with good genes. So just because you follow their protocol doesn't mean you're going to get those results. We're so different as individuals that you really need to have an individual approach to it. And I think the best case scenario is if you had the time to research and tweak and play around with it on your own. But I think what you've discovered is that most people don't have that time. So let's rely on a bit of a team. And if the gym is most approachable, go there, but just make sure you have a well-vetted trainer that has done his research, or reach out to Clark over here and he'll help you out. So
Right.
there are we do have some entrepreneurs that do watch this, and the way that my mind thinks also is that that's an amazing service to people, but I also am curious about like the nuts and bolts from a business standpoint on kind of how that works, because although you want to help people, in order to make it sustainable, it needs to be a business. So like how have you structured these experts as part of the team? Are they employed by you? Are they contractors? Is it more like a networking referral thing? Like how do we, as like it sounds like so system based, it needs to be systemized, to a certain extent, where like you can't have a lone wolf coming out of nowhere with this crazy recommendation that contradicts this expert, So it's like how is that structured from the expert standpoint, and you putting this team together?
Yeah, what's kind of cool is Expert Effect, we have a team of stress resiliency experts, but we also have a team of human resource experts who also include talent acquisition experts, that help companies find the best talent out there. So we actually use that to find the best stress resiliency experts out there.
Cool.
And so we have a whole vetting process. So rather than it just being a referral thing where like we think this person is good, they got good Yelp reviews, go to them. It's like, no, they're part of the Expert Effect team. And when we have an opening for one of our stress resiliency experts, like it's not the first couple people we interview. We like really do some due diligence, and it's like, do their philosophies match our philosophies? Are they really good at what they do? They do a sample session with us before they even meet with a client. So we get to experience like if we get to experience like what they would be like in a session, what they would show up with as a client. And we've done some sessions. It's like, not quite a match.
Yeah.
And so we have a really high bar. And then we just feel 100% confident like this expert is going to show up the way we need them to with our clients. They're going to work well as a collaborative team in supporting the expert. But what's cool is a lot of people are like, so what's the curriculum? What are you taking people through? And it's like, there's no curriculum. That expert has spent 10, 15, 20 years honing their skill. And so we're not going to dictate to them how they have to show up with our client.
Yeah.
They are going to use their expertise, and we just have full trust that they're going to do it in the right way. and that they are going to give really solid advice. And then we just let them soar in their area of expertise.
Yeah.
And so every stress resiliency experience, it's so cool because I get to kind of, see what the clients are experiencing. Every single one is different. It's like you can't be like, yeah, we gave all these people the exact same advice, that's solid advice. It's like, no, it was like the perfect advice for that person that person needed in that season of life for their circumstances.
Yeah, super, super important, and like I've kind of struggled with that a little bit, because one of the ideas here with the Fit Bar is that, we would launch a coaching program, a nutrition coaching program, and trying to systemize that the best we can, as just like some level of automation, and like, okay, how far can you take that? When the reality of it is not very far, because from a nutrition standpoint, we know that everything needs to be so uniquely individual to the person. I mean, general population, like a lot of people, what people struggle with is similar, right? It's like they're not hydrated, they're not eating whole foods, they're not sleeping well, a lot of that, and that all might be the same, but the reasons why they're doing it, and the habits that the poor habits that they've created and that's preventing them from doing it, is all very unique. So it's that might be the collective goal, to get them to drink more water or whatever it might be, but getting that, person A versus person C doing it are completely different things. So, trying to figure out, okay, how far can we take this level of automation, and then roll out a program that again can be sustainable, because when unfortunately we lose employees from time to time, so it's like having somebody, okay, someone leaves, a coach leaves, how do we plug in a new coach in order to keep that program running smoothly? You know what I mean? So it's a challenge, but it sounds like, I mean, I believe that's it though. You just have to have trust in the people that you have on the team, and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love that you're giving thought to that, Jacob. And, it's what you're saying is so true. Like we might be given advice and we think we're doing the right thing for our body, and we think it's the best for our body, but it's actually not. And I'll give two examples from my life. One was when we had our first son. I really believed in exercise, and I was like, this is really helping me, and I would 3 times a week go run. And we had our first son, and of course a little sleep deprivation came in with that situation. And I always loved my sleep, and so that was really hard, not getting the sleep I needed. But I was like committed, like, I am going to keep doing exercise 3 times a week. I'm going to go out and run for 15 minutes. Not hardcore, but just go for a good run. And other times in my life, I'd let that fall by the wayside, but I'm not going to do that. But then I was just like, when I'd go run, I'd feel so tanked afterwards. Yeah. And so I went to our applied kinesiologist on our team, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm doing something that should be beneficial to my body. And he's like, no, you've tanked your adrenals. Yeah. He did a test on me and found like my adrenals have been totally tanked. And he's like, what your body needs right now is a walk. Like, it needs to get the blood flowing and everything. But putting that amount of stress on your body when it's sleep deprived is just going to create more stress. And you've created this vicious cycle that's, depleting your adrenals. So then it was like, okay, great. And then so I was able to gradually, after I did walking, it's like, okay, I tested my body. It's like, now you can do a little more. Let's do a hike, but make sure your heart rate doesn't go up to higher than this level. But then after, fast forward, what's best for my body right now in this season is interval training, where I go and, go out and go really hard for 30 seconds, topping my heart rate out at 170. And then I walk for, a good 5 minutes to get the heart rate down to like 120. And then I do it like 5 times. And like my body's just loving that. Like I feel so alive and energized afterwards.
Nice. As it should, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting. We do these things. So it's so cool, like that you have a nutritionalist on your team, that is helping people like figure out like, yeah, they could come in, but there might be something at Spacebar that they shouldn't be eating for their body type or whatever.
Yeah.
And even though it's really healthy and everything you stock is like so good for the body, there might be one thing that they should avoid, and the nutritionists can figure that out, and then they can do what's best for their body.
Yeah, I mean, it's super important, and it's like, we have this very wide sweeping thing of healthy, and healthy is, again, very unique to the person's situation, so, something that would be a dream for me is that like all the employees have a level of nutrition knowledge and ability to build rapport. So not only just knowledge, but coaching knowledge, and what goes into that when somebody comes in, and shows signs of being diabetic or pre-diabetic, and they want to order, a macro acai bowl with extra granola and extra honey, and where maybe all of those things at one point in time have been called healthy, depending on what your thing is. But for that particular person, having, upwards of 150 grams of carbohydrate, be it from the fruit or the granola or the honey, isn't going to be the best thing for them,
Right.
So not only be able to kind of hopefully steer them towards something else, but obviously have something else for them that is going to be better, or just be able to offer the coaching thing. And that's where I think a lot of businesses end up compromising themselves, is because, they call themselves, to say, a healthy spot or some, like an acai place or whatever, but then they're using, very sugary, sweetened acai, and they don't have anything to offer beyond that. So for one thing, I don't think they really give a shit if your health isn't mine. It's not, but it's like, two, of course you have to continue to push that thing because you don't have anything else for that customer. And when your goal is to make money and be successful, I feel like, you're just setting yourself up to compromise what you stand for ultimately.
Right.
But here it's like, don't have that. Come and have this, and say it confident, because this next thing is going to better serve you. And as a business, we're still going to be able to monetize that,
Oh man, what I'm thinking of is I used to be in the hotel industry, and I used to just be wowed by the wine sommeliers. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'd see this individual come to the table and just walk the people through the wine, and like they were an expert on the subject of wine, and just this knowledge base, and like it is like in Europe, like that is like a esteemed profession to be that. So I love like you're actually bringing that to the juice bar. It's like you want employees that are experts in what they're serving, just like a wine sommelier, and like that just adds so much value to the whole experience.
I mean, yeah, it's a dream. I mean, we're putting in the places, putting in the things to get there, but it's just like, like when other places are like trying to figure out how to get their blueberry costs down.
Right.
I'm like, this is what we're thinking about. This is why we're so stressed out all the time, because there's, like, I don't know of a place to really use it as an example. So it's just like us taking the lumps and being in that uncomfortable growth phase, constantly trying to figure that stuff out.
Yes.
But I think if we can pull it off, then we'll have a business that will not only make it through COVID, but can be around for years to come, and a model that, maybe is franchisable, because we have a unique offer. It's not the color scheme of our walls that is unique, or some Chipotle style topping bar, that's unique to us. It's actual value and things that we have that are uniquely proprietary to our operation. So it seems so far away right now when we're just scraping by.
Yes.
But no, so.
I love the vision though. It's like, it's you're being a pioneer in something, right? And so that it's really risky to do. And it's one of those things where you'd probably have to charge more to bring that level of expertise.
Yeah, true.
Right. And so, but it's like, if that is possible, people will pay a little extra money if they get major value out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
We all have our iPhones, and we pay more for that than we would other phones, but it brings us so much value. But iPhone was like pioneer in that space.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to go for it. We know this is so valuable that people are going to pay a little extra, because once they experience it, they're going to be hooked.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing here. Like, I really hope you're able to incorporate that. And even if it does mean increasing the prices, by $2-3, per juice or per bowl, like people would drive further, when we can all start driving and
Right.
going out a little more frequently. And so if you can get past this period, I just think your vision for it is spot on.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of work, but
Yes.
kind of seeing things that you do with your business, it gives me hope. That there are people out there willing to collaborate and willing to, because that
Yes.
doesn't have to all be in-house. And I
Right.
think as I talk myself through the process of trying to put this out there, it
Mhm.
can start as a collaboration with other experts and kind of tweak and make things fit where we are now and then also in the direction where we're headed.
Right.
The pressure is like, okay, let's make everybody an employee. Let's do all this and this, and that's super overwhelming. Like that doesn't
Right.
need to be the first step. So,
Right.
so I know you have an executive call here soon, but do me a favor and maybe just give just a couple tactical things that people can do. We talked a little bit about it over the episode that just people can use to like get a hold of their stress, like moving forward, like first steps for people.
Yeah. So, I'd say right now, during the pandemic, kind of the biggest things I'm seeing is people's just minds being in overdrive and just a lot of anxiety. So there's some things that can be done there. And then there's things that can be done for our bodies just to help our bodies get through this time, because our bodies, you mentioned parasympathetic earlier, we're on sympathetic overdrive,
Yes,
where,
yeah.
where our bodies sense danger, our minds sense danger, and so it puts our body in this extreme state of pumping all sorts of negative hormones in and such. So on the mental resiliency side, I'd say there's so many things that can be done there, but it's like, how can we just start thinking differently, right? So many people out there are like just fearful about their job, about their entrepreneurial venture, and all of this, and we have this way of just kind of starting to think kind of worst case scenario. And so what can feed that is just everything around us, right? I took my car in to get serviced the other day, and in the background was the news. And I try to avoid the news during this time because I know it brings me down. And it took like 2 hours for my car to get serviced. And so I had 2 hours of just hearing news. And so it started making me have a worst case scenario lens, because that's what the news was feeding me. So I'm trying to work with news outlets. Like, let's not just have it all negative stuff.
Right. No, for sure.
Let's bring some positive stuff into this. And so I think just one of the biggest things is what outlook do I need to have to really take away the anxiety and the fear that I'm facing. And so it's just a perspective shift. So it's naming, what is your perspective right now? So right now I perceive that my job, that I'm going to run out of unemployment at this time. I don't have a job now, and this is how my life is going to be affected, and that's my perspective right now. Or I'm a business owner, and there's just no way I can thrive during this time. I'm not going to be able to thrive until 2023. So it's just changing the perspective and surrounding yourself with people that have a similar perspective. Like, no, this is actually like a time that we could actually thrive. And then those of you that are looking for work, it's like, okay, how can I set myself above every other candidate out there? There's fewer jobs. I used to work for a sports and entertainment company, and I always remember this. Someone from the marketing department came running down to my office as HR, because I was director of HR, and they said, "Clark, look at this. This candidate sent a jersey in of a Kings player, the hockey team, and on the back is their resume."
Nice. Set themselves. That's a memorable resume,
right
there. Yeah.
So they totally got the job.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
Like, this person is creative. So it's like, what can you do if you are unemployed right now, rather than be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to provide, et cetera, et cetera? It's like, how can I just like totally be like, somehow I get into this company and they're wowed. And so just changing that perspective can be a huge thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then for the body, it's just like figuring out what is the activity that will tap your parasympathetic. And that is an activity that isn't an escape. A lot of times right now people are going for escapes. And that is our body like trying to say, I'm too stressed out. I have too much on my mind. My body is feeling the effects. I can feel the stress levels. And so we have this thing where I need to escape that stress. So that's why, alcohol sales are going crazy high. Yeah. That's why, internet usage, the appropriateness of internet usage probably isn't so good right now.
Right.
And people going on Facebook for, more than they ever have in their life. It's an escape, but it's not tapping our parasympathetic.
Right.
So it's like, what is that activity that's going to tap our parasympathetic? For me, last night, it was a busy weekend, actually, and so going into a week, I'm like, what do I need to do? So I did a bath with Dead Sea salt, and usually I just do it for 10 minutes, and I was in there 10, 15 minutes, and I was like, I need more. So I was in there 45 minutes.
Nice, man.
But then I felt in this totally relaxed state, like, okay, now I can go to sleep, and I knew I'd wake up refreshed the next day.
Yeah.
So those are the two things. There's like so many things out there that can help people during this time, but if those are the two that just come top to my mind that could help with both the mental resiliency and also the body resiliency.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't need to take a lot, like the perspective shift, that can happen in 5 minutes in the morning, like kind of going through that process. A bath, that can, breath work, all of those can happen very quickly.
Yeah.
And, as we talk about stress, like a lot of times, stress gets a bad rap. Stress is so necessary for our survival and in order for us to like truly thrive and be the best versions of ourselves. What we're largely talking about is chronic stress. And, being in hyperdrive and going might feel amazing for a certain amount of time. Same thing with, say, a diet. You going on a very low caloric diet might have you feeling amazing, but that's because, you have this little adrenal drip of cortisol that's just like boom, boom, boom. This little, getting that adrenaline going, and that feels awesome. But at some point, you reach adrenal fatigue, and your shit gets completely smashed, and then you're down and you're out, and and it takes a lot to come back from that. So you just need to kind of be able to deal with that stress in a productive manner, and this is why we keep referring to the parasympathetic state, because we're always stressed. It's, especially now. It's not. I don't know too many people that aren't being stressed right now on some level. So it's like the most useful tool right now is being able to get into that parasympathetic state, and you control that. When you have the right tools, whether it's speaking to one of your experts in order to kind of help that, or you just researching a little breath work or doing something on your own in order to be able to do that on your own is so necessary, for sure. So if somebody's looking for some help from your team, where should they go to find you or find them? Is it largely in person, locally to cities? Is it online? Give the people where they can go to find you guys.
Yeah, so super simple. Just go to our website, experteffect.com. You can connect with us there. Kate is our client relations coordinator, and so she can run point on just answering any questions or just getting people the info they need if it's not already on our website. And then right now we are based primarily in Los Angeles. We do a little work in other states. We are going to be launching in Colorado later this year, and probably Arizona, Phoenix next year. But what is cool is in the virtual space, most of our stress resiliency experts can do stuff online. Mm-hmm. And during this pandemic, you mentioned, just doing breath work for a few minutes can be helpful. So we've kind of pivoted, and we actually have this thing where people, if you are super busy or if money is tight, we call them our pandemic support sessions. So it can be a 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute. You just choose the increment you want, and you can do an immune boost session with our applied kinesiologist or our homeopathic MD. So you can just focus on your immune system. It could just be 15 minutes, and it just gives you a little something to help you. Or we also have mental resiliency sessions, or also relationship repair sessions. Nice. If a relationship has kind of gotten severed during this time. Yeah. So those can all just be in those short increments. If someone doesn't want to go, just doesn't have the bandwidth or the resources right now to go through the whole stress resiliency session process.
Love that. So again, man, I'm going to let you get on your call. Appreciate your time. It really means a lot, and being able to find like-minded individuals coming through the space bar was, obviously the dream here, like big part of the challenge was like, how do we get people to know about this stuff here? And because we want to influence the people that don't know, largely, but it starts from people who are already aware and Google searching. So it's amazing to see you come through the door and have the benefits of the sauna, and later today, the ice bath. So
yes, the ice bath.
We can't forget that.
I had already forgotten about that. Thanks for reminding me.
The more you think about it throughout the day, I guarantee your palms will be sweating.
Yes, I think they are just a little bit now.
And those are little cues that you can start paying attention to. That's your body trying to protect yourself. Like, and then you're like, why is my palm sweating? I'm not in the ice yet. That hasn't happened yet. That's anxiety. Right. Let's nip that in the butt until I actually do experience it. Then I can decide next time if I want my palms to sweat or not.
Exactly.
But until then, you can find me on Instagram, Cubba_Saldana, barcodecollective.com. We are also offering a free weekly program of 3 workouts and a yoga flow and a little bit of breath work just for free on the website. So tune in if your gyms are closed, all body weight stuff that you can do at home. And reach out to Expert Effect at experteffect.com. And until next time, we are out of here.